Justice and Law Committee. First item of business is to take the roll. Here?
Reading.
Here.
Feeding.
Here.
Miller. Here. McLaughlin.
Here.
Oski. Hart.
Present.
Urgar.
Here.
And Pearlie.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. First item of business is approving the previous meeting minutes from our October 29th, 2025 meeting. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Reedy? Reedy, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, as we often do, we're going to go a little bit out of order. We're going to start with agenda item 19, which is authorizing agreements with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services regarding Phase 2 defense grant funding and amending the 2025 Albany County budget. I believe Albany County Public Defender Stephen Herrick is here.
Yep, actually,
He's not. All right, sorry.
Chief Assistant Public Defender Matthew Alpern and Director of Operations Keith Bellato.
Awesome.
Thank you. Good evening.
The floor is yours.
And, okay.
We'll go
So-
one at a time. So we'll do 19 first.
Okay. The Public Defender Office, alternate Public Defender Office, and assigned counsel program are seeking to accept grant funds from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services in the amount of $1,360,697 to administer the Aid to Defense for Discovery Reform and Aid to Defense supplemental programs, as well as to authorize related amendments to the county's 2025 budget. These direct awards are based on DCJS formulas, cover April 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2026, and are expected to be reoccurring. There are no county matches.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this particular line item? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion? Mr. Reedy, Mr. Feeney, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Item 20 is amending resolution number 184 for 2024 regarding an agreement with the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services and the distribution number 11 grant.
And in this one, the Public Defender Office requests authorization to amend distribution number 11 grant contract with the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services, as well as authorization of related 2025 budget amendments. Since there were periods of vacancies in the Assistant Public Defender positions funded by the grant, the budget modification is needed to fully utilize the funds provided by the grant.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this line item? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Mr. Reedy, Mr. Feeney, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 21, amending resolution number 745 for 2024 regarding the second statewide expansion of the Harrell Herring settlement.
And for this one, the Public Defender Office, alternate Public Defender Office, and assigned counsel program request authorization to amend the second statewide expansion of Harrell Herring grant contract, with the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services with a term of April 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2027. The amendment increases the total amount of funding from $29,538,230 to $31,310,523.81 to continue work being done under the first statewide expansion of Harrell Herring that commenced April 1st, 2018.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this particular line item? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Mr. Reedy, Mr. Feeney, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None? All right, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice evening.
Okay, that brings us back to the beginning of our agenda. Items number 2, number 3, and number 4 are tabled at the request of the sponsor, which brings us to number 5. Public hearing on proposed local law number T for 2024. A local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending Chapter 288 of the Albany County Code, establishing a minimum passing distance for motor vehicles. Brian, are you speaking on this?
Happy to. We'd like to move this out committee tonight. I know we have some changes.
Okay.
Rebecca, do you have the changed?
I did see an email about this, but I guess we have to be, we're gonna have to be formal about it.
We don't have to amend it.
We don't have to amend it?
Oh,
Not in committee, no, it'll just be amended before it goes out for public hearing and gets published.
All right.
So it's, section 6 and section 5 will be revised. And Susan, if you want to explain exactly what that is, just because
Sure.
we just got this.
So we had a proposed section 6, basically addressing the issue about making that the 3-foot passing requirement would not contravene established law that basically says that you're not passing unless it's safe to do so. So the vehicle and traffic law already says that you can't pass a vehicle unless it's safe to do that. So that was that section of the law. And we're just reiterating that in that section. And the other section was to ensure that that the 3-foot distance would not apply on roads which are clearly marked as usable bicycle lanes. In other words, if the bicycle lane had snow in it, that law wouldn't apply. That 3-foot passing.
So what's the specific, can we get specific about what's changing for everybody's benefit?
She just did.
We're
Yeah, I
just
mean the
clarifying
specific
that
language
we
that's
are
changing.
not, the 3-foot passing rule is subject to it being safe to do so and not contravening current vehicle traffic law provisions, so that you would, just like you're driving on the road, an example would be you have a mail truck in your lane of traffic, you aren't going to make a traffic maneuver to avoid the slowed down mail truck because it's not safe to do so. So it's not requiring you to not abide by the traffic laws.
Okay, my question is, what language is this changing?
I don't know.
Okay.
Can I, you want me to answer that, or it's up to you guys? You guys
Anybody?
want-
Sure.
So what we changed is basically we create a new subsection, if the street is too narrow, you wouldn't pass. Drivers would never try to pass and wait until it's safe. And I think that was the only part of the law that was rewritten, except for you added the language about the ice.
Right,
Right, is that correct?
correct.
Yeah.
And we had previously made a change that if there isn't 3 feet of space, I believe we changed it so it's, you'd have to slow down.
That's right.
Vehicle would slow down, do whatever is safe, if there wasn't.
How is this determined?
Okay, so,
Police officer.
so section 6, which I have, starts the operator of a motor vehicle, would now start, nothing in this local law shall be deemed to authorize, that's, so would be substituted from this email from this afternoon, would be substituted for section 6?
Right.
Correct.
So we gotta
Does the
get this-
minority have this?
No. No. Mr. Chairman?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Can't push this out, they haven't seen it.
Well, it's just for
It's
public
just
hearing.
it's just for public
Oh,
hearing.
this is just the hearing?
Yeah, it's just the hearing, it's not gonna be
Okay, it's been
approved
around
till
so long.
February, yeah.
Well, okay.
I think we should have pushed the public hearing out a long time ago, but there were concerns even though it was just a hearing,
Yeah.
so I think it's time to just have the hearing.
Yeah, have the public
You
hearing.
guys are still amending the law. So, okay.
Yeah,
We can have the hearing, but,
Yeah, but this is just the hearing.
okay. All right,
And-
Ms. Burgdorf.
Yeah, when this originally was introduced, first thing I asked is, does this apply to every road in the county? And I guess I don't know the answer to that. It does.
Yes.
So it's gonna apply to Old Niskayuna Road and Remsen Street and everything.
Yes.
And every street in in every district. So to not be able to tell us how this would work, because I actually took your text and I gave it to the Colony PD, and they said that, you know, if we're the enforcement agent, this doesn't work. And I relayed that answer to folks. So we're sitting here today, and It's not that I don't want to protect someone on a bicycle. It's not that I don't want to protect someone on a wheelchair. But we don't even have the words as to what this does, because you don't have anything in writing, but yet we're being asked to put it out. Now, if the Colony Police are gonna service 500 miles of road in Colony, and they've told me that your last draft was absolutely unworkable, and it would create problems on those roads, I'd like to have a draft to run past the people who, in our town of 90,000 people, are gonna be charged with enforcing this, because, you know, when these things happen, someone's gotta, unless a police officer witnesses it, how does that work? Somebody says, somebody passed me too close, what does it happen? Does somebody have to go and swear out an affidavit and make a complaint? I don't know how this works in real life.
Can I
The
answer
same
that?
way traffic
Yeah, can I answer that?
enforcement always works.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
if the cops aren't a part of it and they say it's unenforceable, so,
I understand
I
how
don't
they
think it
can't
is
enforce it.
well, once
It's
again,
just
have you
someone
talked to
being reckless, basically.
Chief Joyce about this?
I think we're making this way too complicated. Mike.
Well, I don't know what it
All right,
does.
The bottom line-
hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Go one at a time.
I mean, you wanna send it out to public hearing?
Okay, we're making this, quite frankly, and the sponsors know this, I had some reservations about it to begin with, because I live in the city of Cohoes, and two of my streets in my particular legislative district, it wasn't gonna work under the current legislation which is before us. So I asked for some changes, and they were more than,
But can you tell me
Can I
what the
finish?
changes
Can I
are?
finish?
Sure.
I'm not done, I'm not done.
I won't talk again.
We're making this way too complicated. Bottom line is, a police officer drives down the street, and somebody didn't move 3 over, he or she happens to be a police officer behind the individual, I assume they would pull them over 3 feet, okay? I had reservations about it, we made some changes, and it's really that simple, it's nothing more complicated. I don't think somebody's gonna call up and say, hey, I saw somebody, they didn't pull over, they weren't 3 feet, are we gonna arrest this individual? That's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna. I would do it like you have it now, go to the public hearing, and then we can make changes after the fact, is that correct?
No, you cannot make changes.
Yeah, what is the
except for
public hearing
minimal
going to
changes
be
after
on?
the public hearing.
The public hearing is gonna be on the current legislation.
Without the
Is that correct?
email
No, the
changes?
public hearing, we can make amendments to the local law up until the time of publication of the public hearing. To be clear, if this moves out tonight, public hearing only, we would have the updated language in the backup for everyone to see when the agenda goes out. So you will have ample time to see well before even the public hearing.
It's really not making a big change. The language is already in there that basically the idea was that you were not gonna require someone to make a dangerous move while in a vehicle if someone is on the side of the road. That person would slow down and wait till it be possible to pass within 3 feet of that individual. That's the whole purpose of it, and that was already the language in there that said that the operator of a motor vehicle that is approaching or passing a vulnerable road user shall not violate New York Vehicle and Traffic Law, section 1122A, 1124, 1125, and 1126. So,
What are those sections? Could you tell us what they are?
sure, they're right in the V&T law.
Well, I don't have the V and T law.
You don't memorize the V&T?
No. Maybe you'd like to tell us.
Okay, Ms.
So,
Foster.
so, and I just wanted to add one other thing. So what we added, the language that's been added was really for clarification to someone who doesn't know what's in 1125, 1124, and 1126. And it's basically saying that you should do so that until you're safely clear thereof. So in other words, it's not mandating someone make a dangerous traffic move to be 3 feet from a person. It's just like you're driving on the road, there's a mail truck in front of you, you don't have room to pass it, it's going slow because it's delivering mail. You would wait until you can then safely pass around the mail truck. This is simple concept, similar with a bicycle rider, or if you have someone working on the side of the road, you wouldn't want to be too close to that person if you can't be 3 feet. you just wait until you can then safely clear by that person. That's what this is all about.
I don't know how you want to ask follow-up questions, but I guess whatever,
Ms. Plasko?
you know.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to be added, if I could please. It's about changing the mentality and the culture, and it would be enforced as any other vehicle in traffic law. I don't really think we need to state in the law, by the way, you have to follow these other provisions of ETL. If that makes people more comfortable with, that's fine. I think that's not a necessity in the bill, but it's about changing how we drive, how we think about bicyclists, and hopefully reducing the number of the white bicycles you see by the roads. Very much.
Mr. Reedy?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Mr. Prodi?
A question for those who know the motor vehicle law better than I do. What is the obligation of the vulnerable user in their use of the roadway? So for instance, someone on
I don't think there is
skis,
one.
roller skis, so
Like
someone,
if there's someone passed out in the road, you can't run them over because they were negligent in lying down in the wrong place, you know?
so we
That's
tell our
not-
constituents hereafter, someone is roller skiing in the middle of a traffic lane, the obligation is on the motorist to stay 3 feet to the left of that person going down the center of the,
No,
Traffic light?
that's not what it's saying at all.
There are
That's how it's
DOT
saying.
laws that apply to
that's my question.
bicyclists and people using
What
the
is-
roadway.
What is their obligation? Are they obliged to stay to the shoulder? Are they?
Yes, they have to follow all D&T laws, one of which is staying on the
Personally
shoulder,
bicycle.
except for bikes and bike lanes, and the light bikes are allowed to be on the roadway.
And I think the reality in Albany County is if you look at the number of highway miles we have and the number of sidewalks and pedestrian safe areas and bike lanes, it's woefully inadequate. So this is recognizing the fact that people are biking, walking on our roadways anyway, without sidewalks, without clearly demarcated side areas and bike lanes. And this is a way to, as my colleague Ms. Platsky mentioned, this is the reality.
But
We're
changing
trying
the
to
culture,
recognize
but that's my question, is the culture, so does a pedestrian, under New York State Motor Vehicle Law, does the pedestrian have the right to walk in the lane of traffic?
No,
No.
they
No,
must
that's fine.
walk facing traffic on, at the interior side of the road on certain roadways. It gets complicated, but they're
It's
not
all,
allowed
I
to
think
walk.
it's all in BTL.
Okay.
Mr. Yes.
I'll second.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Okay, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, got it.
I'll make the motion to amend the.
Second.
No, no.
The new
So,
date will be January 27th, 2026.
Okay. Mr. Berger, do you have something to say that?
No, I was just going to ask a question. I thought maybe council or you could even answer it, because I have roads like Albany Shaker Road and Old Niskian Road, where there is mail delivery, a mail truck going down one side of the road for 3, 4, and 5 miles. And there are double yellow lines. So if you get behind a mail truck and you can't be 3 foot to the left, are you allowed to go over a double yellow line? Or do you have to follow at 0 miles per hour for 3.5 miles for 45 minutes? And that's a real life example, because it happens every
And
day.
it's specifically contemplated by multiple provisions in the VNT law. You can go around, but you're taking the risk by going over the double yellow line, that you have to be careful of anyone coming into.
So there are reasons
There-
where you can pull around and violate another traffic law? That's what I'm trying to figure
Yes.
out here.
There are.
You have to do it safely and reasonably.
Mhm. You can't drive into oncoming traffic when there is oncoming traffic. You have to be reasonable and
Okay.
rational.
But you have mail routes that take hours long to do
Yeah,
on
come on, this
those
is an
roads.
absurd example.
Well, no, I would yield to a bicyclist,
Okay,
no problem.
okay.
But if,
Yeah, but we got a motion on the
whatever.
floor. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can
Aye.
No. No.
okay, so now we need a motion to
That's the
amend.
end.
That was the motion.
That was the
Okay,
motion.
so now we just,
Steve, we didn't vote.
We didn't vote.
okay, So now we need a motion on the actual.
Second.
All right, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
Clarify, the first vote was on a motion to amend?
Yeah, that was just to amend the date of the
The
public
date.
hearing.
Okay.
The second motion
Send out.
was, the substantive motion is send it out. Did I hear opposed?
Yeah, I'm just explaining it, I'm not substantively opposed to the bill, I don't like the idea of changing it after we set the public hearing. So-
Understood. The updated language will be circulated post haste to everybody, right? Okay.
I'm gonna vote aye
Okay.
to send it out for comment, but I would like to have an opportunity to discuss what specifically we're gonna do, and if you wanna set something up with our local police department.
Well, I think this is
Well,
like.
that's up to you.
Yeah,
It's up to
okay,
you
you
as
guys
a
can
sponsor.
discuss that offline. We're gonna move on to our next
Yep.
agenda item. Good man. Okay, so items 6 through 17 are, nope, hold on, I got my numbers wrong.
6 through 10 are tabled request for sponsor. Item 11 is withdrawn.
Oh,
Items 12 and 13 are tabled request for sponsor. Item 14 is finished.
oh. So item 14. Oh, flare guns. Okay. Local law number J for 2025, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending chapter 161 of the Albany County Code to place restrictions on the sale and possession of flare guns. Sharon Cunningham, are you presenting?
Yes, we've talked at length, I don't need to go through this, it's pretty straightforward. It just codifies that flare guns are treated into traditional firearms and must be primarily purchased, possessed, and used by those over 21. There are some contemplations of exceptions, like Boy Scouts, people in boats who need to use a flare gun. We added language to address that, and I would ask for a motion to record it out.
Okay.
Make the motion.
Second.
All right, does anybody have any questions or comments about this? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous.
15 is tabled at request for sponsor. 16 is.
What's that? Okay, so 16 is public hearing on proposed local law number L for 2025. A local law of the County of Albany, New York, establishing the Albany County Affordable Housing Initiatives Plan.
Okay, I'll talk about the underlying local law L. I will add that it's quite confusing in the agenda because there is a local law L of 2024, which is item number 9. So it is a little confusing even for those of us who work in this body, but this is item number 18, which is local law L.
16.
Right, the public hearing is 16, but the underlying is 18, and that's local law L of 2025. I've just passed out a very succinct kind of walkthrough, which some of you have seen. I'm not going to go through that, but tonight I would just like to kind of hit the highlights. The highlights are that this is the counterpart to local law, what's the local law underlying? G, which passed successfully, unanimously in the legislature. This goes through the structure and the details of how this housing revolving loan fund would be orchestrated and how it would be constructed. This is modeled after 2 examples that the county is very, very familiar with. One is the Stage Act, which this body passed, and the other is the Albany County Business Development Corporation, the ACBDC, which manages a multi-million-dollar LTEC loan fund. These are both housed under the Albany County Alliance. We constructed the structure of the committee and the committee's functions and how it would work after these 2 examples, and there's language in the local law L that is actually lifted directly out of those examples. So this is not a new construct at all. It is something that we, the Albany County Alliance, through those 2 loan programs, works on all the time. We also create this partnership with the Alliance, who would also kind of put together and oversee and manage this housing committee as well. In fact, meeting today with the Albany County Alliance Board, we discussed it, and the Albany County Alliance understands what their role is, and in fact, they were in early meetings about this construct and gave us very positive feedback and advice on how to do this. I'm not going to go through all of the provisions in here, but I would say that these loans are not meant for individuals. These loans are meant for smaller developers who are looking to meet the criteria that the committee that is created in this local law would put together, which would develop, which would articulate that we're looking for developers who would create housing opportunities, workforce housing, in communities of Albany County that have been ignored. So I don't need to really go through the details of the committee. The one thing I would say is please pay attention to the financing. The financing is, I think, section 6 in the local law. If you go to the PowerPoint that I handed out, it starts on page 8, I think, of the PowerPoint, but I'm not going to go through these point by point because we modeled this after the convention center agreement. The first thing we did is work very, very closely with the county executive, the commissioner of management and budget, to identify this funding stream, which would not be a one-off, but rather a consistent funding stream that would be derived from the Albany County annual appropriation from the undesignated, unappropriated fund balance. There is a trigger at which point we would be able to tap into that fund balance, and then what we did, just like the convention center, we created bands under which you would hit a certain percentage, and in that percentage, and I'm not going to go through these, but you'll see these on page later in there, and you'll see a chart that kind of gives you an idea of how the bands work. And keep in mind, it's exactly the same construct. What the bands would look like when it would be triggered, and then there's kind of a topping out. If the housing fund, revolving loan fund, hits $7 million, then there's a pause kind of provision. There's also a provision in this local law that is in effect a sunset. And the reason I wanted that in there is because in 2036, if we are wildly successful and housing is no longer an issue where we're worried about supply in Albany County, I think the legislature, with the advice, of course, of the county exec, should sit down, revisit this, and say, is this where we want this undesignated fund balance to be skimmed off and kind of dumped into? It is very possible, we all work in public policy in this body, it's very possible that we could see a new issue that the county would want to contemplate, consistent, reliable funding streams. So that's the purpose of the sunset. So I think I'll stop there. It is only the public hearing, and I would urge the committee to report out item 16, which is the public hearing for this.
Okay. I have a couple questions about
Yeah.
the undesignated, unappropriated fund balance. On page 13 of the presentation, it says that the operating budget for 2025 is approximately $847 million for the county. What was the undesignated, unappropriated fund balance for, let's say, like the last year or so? Like what is typical
What
for
the
that?
exact number?
Well, no, I don't need that.
Well, I think
I'm just
it was-
curious, like, what band have we generally been in?
I mean, we've generally been just, I think, south of what we have estimated for 2026. Right?
140?
Oh, is it
140, right?
okay.
Pretty close.
So for this example, in 2025, Well, are you talking 2025, 2026, for your 140? That's what I'm precise.
So, say it's less than that, and you can see the ranges on the left side. Say it's 140, I mean, we also worked with Dave Riley to get to a place of comfort on what would be a palatable place to kind of take a portion, a small percentage off and put it into this one. So that's kind of where we came up with the bands and the trigger of what, but you can see, you know, we also, because the trigger is set at a place where, again, we relied on advice from our county budget leaders. You know, if we don't get above that point, there's nothing that is triggered to flow into the housing fund.
Right, so in the most recent years, we would have been in the 16 and a half band,
Possibly,
more or
yeah,
less?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Right.
And then did we, is there a model for this that we're?
Yes.
I know there's the model of our last, in terms of some of the mechanics of it, that it was a Drew Convention Center, but I mean, the model in terms of some other counties doing
Yes,
something like this.
not counties, but there are models of this housing revolving loan fund to, in lots of places. We actually, the staff and actually our interns this summer spent a lot of time working on, giving us some kind of, analysis of where communities have done this. We looked to, we got one, and the staff talked to some of the staff in some of these places. The city of Pittsburgh has a similar thing. What is new is the funding mechanism. That, to my knowledge, although I can't imagine no one has ever thought of this, maybe they have, but we thought of it.
Well, no, there is, utilizing the convention center rubric on the bands towards the unfunded, towards the undesignated unappropriated fund balance, that's kind of the novel idea. The system, as far as tapping into the unfunded fund, or tapping into fund balance to utilize it to fund the affordable housing process, that's nothing new. Ulster County's doing that right now. Okay. Ulster County is doing that right now. Our twist on it, to the extent that there is one working with the exec, is taking the convention center idea of where we are in the fund balance determines what the appropriation is. Ulster County does that on a more direct one-to-one basis. They say, if we want $1 million, they get $1 million.
Yeah, I was more interested, not so much in the mechanics, but in examples where other communities have done this and have seen, like, it's seen results in terms of improving the amount of affordable housing stock. Like, and it sounds like we've done that, and we have models where this has worked, and so that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, Philadelphia is one. There's as we talked about people from Hartford, Connecticut, which has a community loan fund. It's very, very similar.
Yeah, I would certainly, just from my perspective, love to see whatever, like, white papers or whatever, maybe analysis that we've done on it, like, that would be really interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think just to, kind of demonstrates that this has worked in other places and it can work here to achieve the objectives that we have. So with that, I'll open it up to other people. Mr. Purley.
A question, it seems to me that as a legislature, we're designating a sizable amount of money. We're also setting up, I think, a very creative structure to designate in future a committed source of money. But it's going to an unelected group to kind of make the decisions, a group of decision makers. And I've not heard any sort of criteria by which those decisions would be made, other than tonight the chairman, you said they would go to communities that have been ignored. But in my community, in Altamont, there is a housing crisis, right? Young families cannot afford to buy houses. The only houses that are being built are large houses that go to wealthy people who generally don't have kids. The cascading effect of that is there's a very real chance our elementary school may close because the only people who can afford houses in the community today are people that largely don't have children sending to the school. So that it is a severe and drastic crisis, and they're looking to government for help, and they're looking to government for solutions. So I guess the question is, you know, as elected representatives, what do I say to my constituents? Well, there's this group, and they're gonna decide on this thing, and they're gonna decide where the money is going and what the projects are worthy, but I don't have any say in that. As a legislator, I won't get to vote on it. I also don't get even, because I'm in the minority, I don't even get the ability to have a person on my side appoint someone who's gonna be one of these decision makers. So I guess that begs the question, is Altamont a community that is ignored because we don't have a role in making the decisions that this very creative, lucrative fund will be supporting?
So, if I could just respond. So, this is a market-driven approach. So, with an incentive through the revolving loan fund with some public dollars. But this is not Albany County saying, we're gonna build houses in places that we think it's necessary. We're relying on a committee, and again, it's the same as kind of the LTAC loan fund. We're gonna rely on a committee to design a criteria of what we're looking for. We're gonna put it out there. We're going to see what the private market will respond to. And we're gonna say, these are the areas we'd like to see, and it'll probably be criteria that will be based on need. So we're asking them to do the work, and they're putting up the money. So most of the money, if you're a developer, is going to be, you're taking that risk. We are incenting with a small portion that we will finance through a revolving loan fund, and that will be paid back in the revolving loan fund. But this is a market-driven solution. We can't make a dent, Albany County, in the housing shortage without doing something that pulls the market in, and importantly, pulls in additional funding for that portion of those loans through something like a revolving loan fund, which will be very attractive to our state partners, our federal partners, as well as credit unions, banks, and others who have to, per their own regulations, commit a certain portion into, community initiatives. So we were told directly, this is a great idea because now we have a place to put it where the private market can be incented to build houses.
I get that. I think that's a great model. We're basically leveraging a small amount of
Yes.
public resources to have a larger amount. But my question still comes on that small amount of 100% public resources. What is the criteria that we're saying that as a matter of public policy, this is where we would like these funds to go? These are the problems we would like these small funds, our small contribution, these are the problems we want to address. And the only criterion I've heard thus far is communities that have been ignored. Ignored on the basis of what?
Well, the other thing I would say is that we have talked to developers who are really interested in building houses, places, and they can't, like South End, I'll use as an example, and they can't get adequate financing terms, even when they have state grants that would supplement. So one of the audiences that we kind of delved into was talking more about that model. They want to build in certain places. They're getting lousy rates, and this kind of additional financing tool to supplement it would make it more economically advantageous for them to do it. So again, it's a private market solution that, we're hoping to engage smaller developers. It's not going to be the large ones. And there's a number of them in Albany County who are concerned about the lack of housing in certain places because, they're community minded. They've grown up here. Their families many of them have been here for generations.
Yeah. The principles, the principles that would govern the sort of administration of loans are in section 7.
Right.
Yes, and I see that, and council points out, and it says specifically rural areas and or historically underserved communities. And I've talked about this before, we do this a lot at the county level. We sort of say, okay, we know what we're talking about, this is a program primarily for the city, and then we throw in the hill towns and we say, okay, we got everything covered. But meantime, we sort of gloss over literally tens of thousands of people in places like Guilderland and Westmere and Colony and Bethlehem, and there is a crisis in those places, right? My constituents, yeah, some of them are rural, others in Guilderland Center, for instance, that's not necessarily a rural place. Is it historically underserved? I don't know by what criteria you're using. So is this,
It might be for workforce housing. So we're not over-engineering this, because it is a market-driven apparatus, you know?
We're essentially subsidizing.
We're subsidizing through cheaper loan rates a portion of the financing.
And that's limited to like 16%, right?
Yeah, whatever the math is.
1 to 5 ratio. Chair, Council, do you want to say something?
No, Mr. Chair, you covered exactly the provision that I was going to direct Mr. Curley to at 7B. Okay.
so just one more point. So Guilderland Center is not is not a rural area. I don't think it qualifies under any USDA or HUD as rural. So if there was a project that did smaller starter homes,
And it qualified as workforce housing, and they could make the case that, you know what, this is underserved in the community that we're trying to build in. Guilderland is very, very zoning and, you know, regulatory friendly, you know. And, you know, we're gonna have a committee that will have experience in that field, who will say, you know, just like they do the other loans that Albany County gives out, you know? We're not involved in that, you know, we bring the experts in, who evaluate those and say, this is a good idea based on my banking, economic development, experience, and, you know, so far it's worked out great.
so underserved is underserved by the market, not necessarily underserved in terms of, I don't know, other redlining
It
or
could be
things.
both, it could be both.
Okay.
Sure. It could be both, and it's also only one criteria of the 5. Inside the system, if you've got a viable affordable housing project that sings all the notes for increasing housing and is, you know, and has the investment, it's not going to be kicked off because it's not in a rural or historically underserved community. That's why we have a spread on that, so that we can right-size the investment and the funding to the projects that we're looking at.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'll just say, Mr. Curley, to your point about the sort of, the committee, the Affordable Housing Committee being unelected, I mean, there are all sorts of bodies that, you know, we might authorize and even fund, but we obviously don't have the bandwidth to micromanage all the stuff, so we delegate to them with our oversight. So that's, you know, I think that's the construct here, but we would certainly maintain some sort of oversight responsibility over it to make sure, hopefully, that to address some of your concerns, that that it would address developments throughout the entire county, but, you know, the rural areas, the more urban areas, and even some areas that maybe people don't think of as having affordable housing crises, but they do, right? Guilderland Center being, you know, your example, absolutely. I would hope that ideally it would serve all those parts of the county.
Thank you.
Quick question. The committee members, do they have terms?
Yeah.
That's one of the ways we have oversight.
Right, if it
Terms
wasn't
are staggered.
If
performing.
people that are not performing the right way, we feel as if people need to be replaced, we do that. So it isn't.
Or we need a skill set that,
Right.
you know, that they've identified.
If there's no further question, I'll make a motion to move it.
Okay, second. Well, does anybody else have any questions? I want to make sure we give everyone an opportunity to opine or ask questions. Okay, I don't think I see any more, so I do have a motion and I have a second. So this is to report this out for the public hearing. The date's all good for public hearing and everything? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that goes to public hearing unanimously.
17 and 18 are tabled at request of sponsor, and there are no further items.
Okay, now motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.